What's up, ASPIRA? What's up, aspirantes? Yeah, so today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it means to be an Indian. As you know, I consider myself a proud Piscataway Indian. And that means a lot to say that in this year in 2023. It's kind of a big deal. And one of the ways in which you know you are indigenous or an Indian, a people of the earth, you're a person who is from the earth, who supports the earth, is the fact that you won't back down on certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like, other people will compromise on things and stuff, but people from the earth, Indians, sometimes they just rather give their lives than to give up some things like their homeland or their way of life or something like that. So when you start feeling that way, when you start feeling a relationship with the land, that's when you start feeling indigenous. You know what I'm saying? You're starting to feel like that earth centered within you. And so it doesn't matter what race you are or where you come from, because everybody is indigenous to some place, and wherever you are, you just get with the indigenous people and support them. You know what I'm saying? You do what you can. And so after a while, the people recognize you as one of your own. Maybe you don't know if you are or you aren't, but this is where you feel home. And so people agree this is where you belong. And you become part of the family like that. And that's how you become part of an indigenous tribal nation if you're not born into one. And some people are lucky and they're born into them. And they can make it tough for people that's not born into them. But still, after a while, I mean, your family is your family, you know what I mean? No matter what you do, there's nothing you can do to change your mom and dad. It's the facts, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's important because it's important to be yourself, you know what I mean? Don't try to please other people and stuff. That's how you know you're indigenous. You're going to stand your ground. You're going to stand up and be as equal as anyone. You're not going to give in on certain things. And I'm not saying, like, when I say stand your ground, anything violent, you know what I'm saying? You can compromise to keep the peace. That is usually a really good idea, you know what I'm saying? But after a while, it's going to come to a point where you can't compromise anymore because it goes against who you think you are and what you stand for. And eventually, that's going to grow inside you. And that's what we want. And that's when they say people have a strong backbone. They stand up for stuff and they stand up for being proud. And so this is my good friend, Vernon Foster, and he's going to tell you a really good story about how you stand your ground like an Indian.
I was sitting in my flat and I was just minding my own business and I got a knock on the door and I opened the door and there's depression. Didn't say good morning, didn't say hello, how you doing? It just came in and it went all through my flat, told me what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and it did whatever it wanted and I let it. And when it was finished with me, it just got up and left. Didn't say thank you, didn't say goodbye, didn't see you later. It just left. A few weeks later went by and another knock on the door. I open it and there's depression. Depression standing there with the whole box full of groceries. He goes into my kitchen, takes everything I like to eat out and puts everything in the cupboard that he likes. Again, took over my house and when he was finished, left. No thank you, no goodbye, no see you later. A few months went by and I got a knock on the door and there's depression. And he's holding a suitcase, clothes, and he goes to my closet, takes out my bright colored shirts, hangs up all his black clothes, makes himself at home, tells me what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And I did it. I did everything depression asked. And then in the morning, I was sitting at the table drinking coffee and depression came in I knew. I knew what depression wanted me to do next, but I already tried it. It didn't work. So I looked depression in the eyes and I said, sit down. We need to have a talk. And depression came and sat down. And I said, listen, you're welcome to come here anytime you want. Anytime you want to come, you're welcome. But when you do, you have to follow my rules. And with that, depression stood up, looked at me and said, I respect you. I asked depression, why do you respect me? And depression's answer, you stood up to me. And I looked at depression and I said, I respect you too, because I know how much power you have. And with that, depression stood up, told me I am leaving, and he left. A few weeks later, got a knock on the door. Depression standing there, looked at me. Can I come in? And I said, sure, come on in. We sat down, we had a good cup of coffee. He helped me write a couple good songs on my guitar. I looked at my watch and I said, it's time for you to go. And depression stood up and it left. See, that concept, that story is saying, instead of spending the years that we have fighting, pushing away our feelings, which is a part of us, make friends with your feelings. Make allies with your feelings, not enemies. Because you're only fighting yourself. You're the only one that's going to end up with bruises. Not your feeling, not your emotion. That is a traditional concept, utilizing words, if you will, to fit into something that we deal with every day. People are depressed. People are angry. People are frustrated. People are jealous. People have hatred, rage. Those are feelings and those are emotions. They are a part of us. They are attached to us. So using these concepts, I try to bring the teaching that it's time to surrender. It's time to make friends with your feelings, because making friends with your feelings, you make friends with yourself.
You see that? Vernon stood his ground, man. He took depression and he told it what was what. And like he said, depression takes over most people's lives, tells them what to do. So you gotta stand your ground. That's how you know you're coming into being a more indigenous person. All right, we'll check you out next time, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Piscataway Indian Nation and what it means to be indigenous and the indigenous history. Check you later.